We love our Berkey water filtration system. We use this thing day in and day out every single day. However, it's kind of pricey. If you go and look at these things online, they run about $400 to $500 for a family size version. Now, the authentic filters that go inside of this, the Berkey filters, they run closer to about $170. So today, we're going to show you how to DIY one of these Berkey systems to hold the filters for about 50 bucks. Stick around. Welcome back to our channel, the Purpose Driven Homestead. Today, guys, we want to share with you a little bit about these Berkey filters, and we love ours. We think there's a huge opportunity for anybody that homesteads or for people who want to just be more prepared. You don't actually have to be a prepper to want to have one of these systems just in case there's a hurricane, a tornado, an emergency, something where you might be caught without a reliable source of water. We think these things are amazing. Plus, I'm not gonna lie to you, the taste to me is better than any bottled water, any tap water. It's just so pure. There's just no flavor to it at all. And that's what I really look for when I'm talking about water. But you can go online and you can find these filters in a lot of different places. You can see that there's been some private independent people who have done YouTube videos on them. You can see how they work. You can see kind of some people do some crazy gnarly, they take some gnarly water and put through these things. I've seen people take ditch water, hurricane water, water that's come out of a swamp, and they drink it. And again, all of your home preparedness, all of your preppers, they're gonna talk very highly of the Berkey system, right? So they get 99.999% of all pathogens out of the water according to their website. Now, we're not gonna wade there. You're welcome to go and watch some of those. And if I have time, I might even link a few of those into the description below if you wanna see some of those videos. But we're not gonna spend any time today showing you the value of the actual filters themselves and the Berkey system. We're assuming that you already know that these are amazing. And we wanna show you a way to, instead of buying a second set of these, we want to show you how you can build them from some very common things that you can find at Walmart, Target, or any other supply store, Meijer, wherever you're close to. Now, before we get started with the actual build, there's a few things I wanted to share with you guys. You probably heard me say earlier that I think you should use the authentic Berkey filters with this system. Now, even though we're doing a DIY version, we're going to show you how to replace the stainless steel container that the filters sit in. I do still think that there is a huge value in using a certified Berkey filter. Their systems are amazing, and I do think having a primary system is still good. But if you're going to have a backup system, or maybe you want to have something in a different home, maybe a vacation home, but you don't want to spend quite the money that you have in a system like this and just want to spend them on the filters, they cost about $170. So you can cut out from that $400 to $500 mark all the way down to about $170 by only spending on the filters. Now, the system we're going to show you today cost us about 50 bucks to make. Now that includes, and I'll show all the video here, it includes all of the canisters, right? So there's 2 stainless steel canisters that we're going to use today. We're also going to use some L brackets. We're going to use some stainless steel screws and also some acorn nuts. And then we're going to have some drill sets. We're going to show you exactly what sizes you need. We're also going to show you the handle that we're going to put on our system as well. Now, all the items we're going to use in the build today are going to be linked in the description below. Now, we'll share with you, if you buy from any of our links, all you have to do is click on those links. It's going to take you to Amazon. I also am going to put them in there for Walmart as well, because I know some people don't prefer Amazon. These actually came from Walmart, so you can buy these stock pots directly from Walmart, but I'll have all the links in the description below. If you buy from those links, we do get a tiny commission, which helps support the channel and doesn't cost you a dime. So guys, check out these. Everything's going to be linked in the description. Now, before we get started, now is a fantastic time to remind you, please subscribe to our channel if you like our content. Click that notification bell now. That's important because when you click that notification bell, it will then remind you anytime we come out with a new video, something you want to see, it will shoot that up and you won't miss a single one of them. But please like our video, share it with others, and of course, please subscribe to our channel. All right, now let's get started here. All right, you can see here that we have 2 mainstay pots that both came from Walmart. Again, there's going to be a link in the description below to all of this stuff so that you can make sure you get the right stuff. Then we've got this black Berkey elements. Now, I'm also going to put a link in here. I don't know of a place to get this except maybe Berkey or on Amazon. If you know of another place, feel free to shop for it there. But you want to look for this hologram because this is an authentic product. There's some stuff that's fake online. If you go on Amazon, follow our link. That's the real legit one, but there's some other fake ones on there as well. You want to look for that hologram. That's what it looks like when it comes out of the box. Then we've used stainless steel hardware on this, right? So we've got some screws here. You can see the size there. And then we have matching acorn nuts that are also stainless steel. And where possible, we tried to use washers and stainless steel materials here so that they won't rust. Now these are L brackets that are going to be used with some of these things as well. And again, we use the acorn nuts here because you'll see later on in the video where we use them at. We don't want them to poke us, and that helps kind of cover the screws. And then that's finally our spigot as well that we have. That is a lead-free spigot. So all this will be linked in the description below. You can see where to get it all. I do like this spigot though because it's a quarter turn, and that makes it just a little bit easier to use. Now you can see the tools we're going to use today. We've got a drill, a standard set of drill bits. Then there's a graduated set of drill bits. Those are going to be pretty important as we're trying to get to specific size holes. Then we have a straight edge and some sort of pencil, a tape measure, and then we've got these calipers. Now we're using the calipers to help us to make sure that we get the right size for all the threaded items that we're going to be making holes for. So you can either get a caliper, a set of calipers yourself, or just take my word for it. Now there are two pots here. One of these tops aren't going to be used anymore because one of the pots is going to be nested within the other. So you can use that for something, toss it away, whatever. It does come with two tops. Each one comes with one, so one of those is going to be a waste. Now, obviously, you're going to remove the label that's attached here. Now, I found that these things get really sticky, especially if the pot's been in any type of heat, like you've left it in your car or something along those lines. And when I pulled it off, it left off this adhesive. I'll just tell you real fast, the best stuff here is this Goo Gone. You can use it, then wash it off really good to make sure that there's no residue left from it. You can see it took care of it really fast. Now I will readily admit that I did a horrible job of finding center here. So for all of you mathematicians and master craftsmen out there, you are going to hate what you're seeing right here. I readily acknowledge that. I didn't feel well this day. And quite frankly, I just did the fastest way just to find something close to center. So I could have used Thales' theorem and used two right angles and found center that way. But unfortunately, I didn't feel like doing it that day. So I drew some lines and measured it off and got about center and moved on. So please forgive me of this one error in judgment that day. Now, once you feel like you've gotten too close to the center of the pot, mark it with one of these little tools. Some people call them different things. I call it a center punch. Some people call it a nail punch. There may be even slight differences, but this is what I used. I used it to make a mark, a very small dent in the middle so that I could get my center mark. And then I used it to mark evenly across and above so I could get 4 holes for 4 filters. I'm only going to use 2 holes this time and only going to draw it, but I went ahead and marked the other 2 in case I ever wanted to add 2 more filters. So you'll see that I'm only going to drill 2 holes today, but the other 2 are already marked so that I don't have to come back and try to do this again later if I want to add 2 more filters to speed up the filtering process. Now this is a Berkey filter that we're going to use today. You can see the diameter of the threaded part. So you want to make sure that we're going to get a hole that this is going to fit in. We're going to use those calipers that I mentioned before, and we're going to measure right there across the threads because the threaded part is actually wider than the end diameter. So it's a little bit narrower at the end. We want to make sure the threads go through and don't get damaged as we're putting them through. So you can see that it's 13/30 seconds. So now that we know that it's 13/30 seconds, we're going to use that information. We're going to lock in the calipers here so they don't move. And then we're going to get our graduated drill bit. Now we'll use one of our smaller drill bits to get it started. But this one's the one we're going to use to get through it. We want to find the one here that is the closest to the 13/30 seconds. So the 7/15 is the closest size on this drill bit. It'll be just a hair bit larger
than the calipers here, that 13/32, but that's going to be okay. We'll be able to make that work with those O-rings. Here's that small drill bit that we're going to use as the starter. We're going to use, remember, we're not going to drill in that center hole or the outside the top one and bottom one. Just the outside ones is the one we're going to shoot for. We will leave those dents here though, because those can be used for future filters if we so desire to do it. Now we've drilled one here. We're going to now start the second one. I kind of sped this up so you can skip through this portion. All right, so we have those two now drilled. We're going to switch over from the pilot hole drill bit now into this graduated cylinder, and we're going to go ahead and move through this. Now, I'm using a Sharpie here because it's sometimes kind of difficult to see those measurements as you're moving through when you're trying to drill through. So I marked it with that so I know exactly how deep I need to go in order to get to that right size. I also have my buddy here. He's going to help me by vacuum up any of those metal shavings as they're coming out as I'm drilling through this pan, so that way it doesn't get all over the place. So now you can see here we got just to the right size there. You can see we made it all the way to our green stripe, so that's where we needed to stop. Now we just need to do the other side. All right, we've got our two filter holes made now. We're going to go ahead and put our filters in. Now, on the inside here, we can see that there's some burrs. We're going to deburr that real quick. Make sure they're clean so that there's no issues. It doesn't leak around the burrs or anything. Don't want to cut our fingers either.
Now, make sure that when you get your Berkey filters, make sure they're authentic. And we showed you that earlier, how you can tell that. But also, make sure that when you're doing these will get clogged over time. Now, we have a big family. We have 6 people in our family. And these things, by our calculations, how much water we drink, these things should last us close to 6 years. So they are a little pricey, but I would encourage you to get the authentic Berkey filter here. The other thing is, if their flow rate, so what happens is it actually permeates through this, drips in, it goes through this membrane, then it comes out through this hole into your catchment where you drink the water. So that's the purified water. If you find that this is getting slow and it's not dripping as fast as it used to, what you can do is you can actually take this out and rinse it off. You can even do it with it still attached to the Berkey, but you can also use, pull this out just like I've done here, and you can wash them off, and it'll clear some of these bigger things that are stuck in the pores, and it'll speed up your flow rate as well. So that's a little trick to make your filters last a little bit longer.
Now we have our bucket here. We've got both holes drilled in the bottom of it. Now we're going to attach our filter. We take that wing nut off. That's the entire thing that we bought. There's a white O-ring. That black O-ring you have there is actually what's going to go on it when you put it inside of here. But there's also a white O-ring that comes with it as well. And you have to prime this filter. So you're going to put that up at the front. It's going to push water through it. What it's going to do is fill that thing up with water. It's going to push out any of the carbon and things like that and air that's trapped inside of it. But it's not easy to do. And so it's going to take a few tries potentially. And you have to kind of push it up towards the bottom of your water faucet. I actually had to put my fingers around it to create a thicker seal because the white O-ring just didn't do it the way our faucet was made. So heads up there, you may have to get a little ingenious there with how you're going to do it. But we're going to put this filter on the inside. That's where it goes. And then we're going to take that plastic wing nut as it comes through on the other side, tighten that down. All right, skip ahead here a little bit. Now you can see that's the first one done. And you're going to see that you could technically put 4 in here, but 2 is going to be, it's going to be pretty tight if you put 4 in there, but 2 is plenty. So we're going to make sure that black O-ring is on the inside, not on the outside, so that it seals the water in. Now, depending on how thick or if you get a different set of pots, I wanted to show you this. We didn't have to do it for ours, but if you need to do it for yours, you may have to put some stainless steel washers. Make sure it's stainless. You may have to put that on the outside because if it's thin enough, the threads only go down so far. So you may have to put these, some number 1, 2, 3 washers on there to give yourself enough of a gap there so that you can tighten it down and get it where it seals very good against the bottom of the pot. And that's what you're going for here, right? So we didn't have to do this. I just wanted to show you what it would look like if you needed to do it. Just a little helpful hint. Now these brads or rivets that they use on here, you would think at first, oh, maybe I can use this. Could I possibly use these to hold up the other bucket? I tried it a couple of times. I looked at it. Unfortunately, it just slides right past it. It actually goes down almost halfway down, which you lose a tremendous amount of water volume that way. So that wasn't smart. We didn't want to do it. We also figured out that these brads or rivets actually aren't straight. So while they may look like it, when we started doing some measurements, they weren't exactly straight either. So the pot was sitting kind of crooked inside of the water, or inside the bucket, I should say. So we're not going to do that. We're actually going to use these L brackets that I showed you earlier. That way I have a lip to sit it up on. It basically makes a tripod inside of here, right? So it's going to sit on top of it and it doesn't sink down into the bucket. That's what that lip's going to be for. You can see I've got the L brackets. I've also got stainless steel washers and an acorn washer here. All this is going to be in the description below so that you can see which one we use. That's a stainless steel screw. These are washers that are stainless steel as well. Everything's stainless because anything that's touching water, we want to make sure it's stainless so it doesn't rust and we don't have to go back and redo that. Now, I wanted to use these acorn nuts and these washers. I couldn't find a short enough screw here. So this machine screw, I probably could have used a little shorter, maybe one that was a 1/4 inch, but I couldn't find any. I looked at both Home Depot and Lowe's and Menards, which are the 3 big box stores near me. So I came up with the washers as an alternate version so that I could make it work with what I was able to find. Those 2 are already done now. You can see what we're going to do. We have one more hole to go over here. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick. Now, while we're putting these brackets on, I did want to give a quick shout out to Jenny at the Homestead Corner. We actually got our idea from a video that they did a while back, and we saw some similarities, but we wanted to make some modifications that I think make the whole system better. So we added brackets, we made some functional changes to it, but I think ours is just an enhancement on what they did. So I did want to give them a shout out. One of the things I wanted to also tell you here is that this acorn nut that I'm putting on here, we chose these intentionally to go on the back side here so that when these screws stick out, even though we've got the washers there, I wanted to make sure there was nothing. We have little people, and I wanted to make sure there was nothing that we could catch our arms on or legs on or anything like that, because those screws can tend to be pretty sharp where those threads stick out. Now you can see that this nests right in there. It sits right on top of those brackets. There's nothing pokey sticking out because of our acorn nuts. And then when we want to pop it out, it pulls right out. Now, you won't do that very often, so you kind of see it stuck a little bit, but you won't be doing that very often, right? It's going to drain into that bottom, and you're going to just cycle it through. The only time you'll take that off is when you're going to be washing it. Now that we have our L brackets or our brackets set up there, the only thing we have left to do is put our spigot or our little faucet on there. This is a 1/4 turn. Again, I'll link all of this in the description below, but it is a 1/4 turn. It's just a lot easier, I think. You've got 2 seals here. That one's going to be on the outside. So that one's going to press upon the outside of the pot or of the stew pot here. All of the rest of it's going to be on the inside there, right? Now that, again, this is lead free. Make sure when you buy it, it's lead free. Again, if you follow the link in the description, that'll be the one we got here, and it's lead free. You can do this however you want to do it, but in my opinion, I saw that nut was sticking out on the outside, and I just thought it looked better with a plain kind of finished side here without any hardware. So I put it on the front side here, kind of opposite from where that nut was, and that's where we're going to mount it. So you can see that's kind of the location that we have here set up right now. Now we have to choose carefully here because we want it to be low enough that we drain as much water as we can out, but we don't want it too low that we wind up, getting into that curve at the bottom. So we're going to measure about half of the bottom here. We're going to try to shoot for the center there and then kind of measure up. But we want to make sure that we get the right hole in there first, right? So we want to make sure we know what the opening needs to be. So we don't want to have something that's too big or too small. So we're going to turn on our calipers again. Going to zero it out. They're going to measure around that. It's 5/8. So that's the hole opening, including the threaded portion, 5/8. So that's what we're shooting for. That's going to be what we measure for with our graduated drill bit here. You can see that we've marked it with a blue now. So I've changed it to a blue color there for 5/8. Now, additionally, we know that this spigot, we want to measure the full length of it, right? So from top to bottom, that faucet is measuring about 1 1/4. So 1 1/4 inches from top to bottom where this is going to be on the inside and the outside kind of showing. Because remember, we want to make sure that doesn't hit the curve either, right? We don't want that to get caught, so it's down at the bottom. We also are measuring off, and I didn't show this, but I also measured off where the faucet is coming down, where it makes its turn, so it doesn't make the turn. If you sat on a counter, you want to be able to use that so it doesn't hit the counter. At the bottom of the faucet doesn't hit it. So I measured 1 1/4, then I did half of that, right? So that's, if you look here, we've got 3/4 of an inch, right? It's 0.75 inches, 3/4 of an inch. That's what we measured off there, okay? Now that would be the center point, but we're gonna come up a hair. We're gonna come up about 1/4 of an inch here to give ourselves some, you know, so that we can kind of take up for that 1/4 of an inch that of the rounded part at the bottom where the pot actually makes this roll, because we want to make sure it has a good seal. So we came up 1/4 of an inch, and that's going to be the center hole. I just used the center hole punch to get a good mark there, so I know exactly where we're going to make the drill at. We're going to start with our pilot drill here. We're going to start with a pilot hole from one of our small drill bits, and then we're going to go to our graduated. I figured I'd give you a different view here. You can kind of see how this thing is going in. And you do have to be careful when you're drilling because, and I didn't worry about it with a small drill bit, but for this one, it's easy to dent these things. So you just have to be very, very careful that you don't wind up denting the pot as you go through, because there's a lot of force, and this thing's, you know, stainless steel is pretty tough stuff. I dented it a little bit here. It kind of bent in, but it's not too bad. I'm not worried about it. It didn't leak, anything like that. It's big enough that it's going to make, you know, it's going to seal around that hole. I did deburr it between here. I didn't show you that. And then I tightened it up on the inside, that nut, with a pair of an adjustable wrench. And while I held the outside, I got it good and tight. Now the final thing that I did here was I did check for leaks, and it worked out great. You can see here a scan from top to bottom. I think it looks pretty good. Job well done. Is it a Berkey? No, but it was a whole lot less money. So I think it looks pretty good.
Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. We hope you've enjoyed seeing how you can build your own version of the Berkey stainless steel filter system. Now, we still encourage you to buy the filters from Berkey themselves because we think they're high quality. I'm not sure what you're going to get when you buy knockoffs from Amazon or from Alibaba or wherever else you can get these online. I do encourage you to get the filters from Berkey because we know that they're high quality. And I've already showed you how you can tell when those are actually the authentic versions, right? You can see it on the box in a little hologram. But this is a fantastic backup, or if you just don't want to spend the money and you're like, hey, I still want the Berkey system, but I can't afford it. I can't afford $500. I think this works fantastic. It's a great alternative. It gives you a way to get into the market, use their filters, but maybe not make the huge investment into the actual Berkey system itself. Now, if you've enjoyed the video today, guys, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to click that notification bell because that way you won't miss any of our content. You can also see some of our other videos that we have out there on other DIY projects. We've got one on making a rain barrel system for your home or your small homestead. I think that one's really great for those who are looking for ways to capture water. I'm not encouraging you to go drink that water necessarily unless there's an emergency, but we've got some projects out there, guys. Please check those other videos out. And we'll see you next time on the Purpose Driven Homestead.